most people have insane stories. Most people have been through hell, you know, and I would say the majority of people aren't very open about it, and it's not especially obvious. But I think it's good to go into situations assuming, oh, this person has crawled through hell, you know, and so maybe I should give them some grace.
It's better with us two. We're better together.
Welcome to the Better Together podcast. We are so glad to have you. My name is Bryden Brett.
I'm Mina Brett.
We are your co-hosts.
We never get this right.
We're your co-hosts.
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 Yeah.
We're your co-hosts. We're your hosts.
Yes, we are. We've been doing this for a while, and we're so grateful to be here at the studio. I want to shout out our man Tommy for just holding us down with the podcast production. He is the man. And we're excited today because we have a guest. It's our first guest ever. Bro. We have a guest, and he's a homie, and we can't wait to introduce him to you. But we got to do a couple things first. First of all, thank you so much for following, liking, subscribing, commenting, being in the community. We appreciate it. Always appreciate any donations that come our way because it helps fuel the fire of bridge building love.
Wow.
Did you like that?
That was
just admit that I'm a branding genius.
You are.
Just admit.
You are a genius.
Thank you.
That was not a display of your genius, but you are a genius.
Cool. Thanks. All right, and we want to let you know. Okay, so we had this cruise lined up, and it was going to be just for married folk, but we decided no, we want everybody. So we're going in August of 2026. The information is on our website, bettertogether.com/cruise. You can come cruising with us. It's just gonna be a Better Together friends and family cruise. We're gonna be doing a couple of workshops, doing a guided, what do they call it? A hosted, when you go on land, when you're not cruising anymore.
Excursion?
A hosted excursion. And we're gonna because we're experts about, Costa Maya and Cozumel and that stuff, because we know we've been there so many times. So we're gonna show everybody around, say, oh, there's a Cafe Rio and there's a Chipotle.
Cafe Rio. Whoa.
I don't know.
Wow.
I have no idea.
We are not experts on any of that, but whatever it is that we will be doing on this excursion will be exciting. Yes.
So it's going to be fun. So make sure you sign up for the cruise. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be learning and having memorable experiences together. So it'll be really cool. All right. We are excited about our guest today. We are excited. I
have his bio. I want to read
his
his bio.
Don't show him on the camera yet because we want to wait.
Okay, I'm not going to say his name. I'm just going to give the bio, and then we'll say his name as an introduction.
Of course.
All right,
yes.
So here we go.
Good. Way to go, MC.
This person was born in Seattle, Washington, and lived in various cities growing up. He ended up here in Monroe, Utah. Interesting. It's like a small town, I guess. He served an LDS mission in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and is fluent in Portuguese and Spanish.
What?
Come on.
He's trilingual?
Trilingual. He played basketball in high school and has also spent some time coaching at the high school level. Okay, what? Coach. He is an omnivorous reader. Come on.
Omnivorous?
I feel like he's the one who came up with that word.
Absolutely. Him and chat. This is a co-creation for sure.
He is an omnivorous reader and is known for his incessant documentation and categorization of his own life. This is true.
Wow.
He studied history in college and specializes in Holocaust studies.
Which you are very interested in yourself.
Yes, it's something that I used to really, really be into, especially when I was in high school. I was obsessed with anything that had to do with World War II. So I was like, oh, that was something that I didn't know about him. And I'm really excited to introduce our audience to the one, the only, the illustrious author and podcaster and life coach, Taylor Church.
Oh, what a great howl that was.
Yo.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
What's actually good, bro?
Okay, let me just say this. Technically, I did write that bio of myself in
I figured.
2010.
No way.
Wow. How come you've never replaced it?
Pre-chat.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that's a weird bio I wrote on, I think,
It's on Goodreads. Yeah, it's on Goodreads. That's where I found it.
So
We should have asked you for a current. Like, what would you?
I was,
Okay, like, yeah,
if you're gonna introduce yourself,
Yeah.
what would you say?
yeah.
I would stick with omnivorous, but I mean, I think that was before I had written 3 books.
Mhm.
Yes.
It was before I even got into podcasting.
That's why I had to add those
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
before I got into coaching, it was more like a list of my hobbies and yearbook stats,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
still accurate. Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of 3 books,
Mm-hmm.
Taylor has written 3 books, and they're here on Goodreads.
Yeah.
I'm trying here a memoir of love, loss, and misadventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the picture for that one.
Oh, thank you.
It's very artsy.
Yeah.
Who did that?
It was just this random guy I was working with. Well,
Is this like a Fiverr guy or like
no. He was like a buddy of mine that we were doing a Kickstarter at the time.
Ah.
And he was like, he specialized in like helping people with Kickstarter. So he was just kind of good at a lot of random marketing things. And he kind of came up with the idea, and yeah, we just kind of did it on the spot. Yeah.
cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Return Not Desired.
Mhm.
Is that what kind of book is that?
That's a book about the Holocaust.
Oh,
That's for you to read.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to read that
Yeah.
Wow.
for sure. And then the last one is Nevertheless, the Fish Are Dead and the Chair is Broken,
Mhm.
a novel.
That's right.
So cool, bro.
So we've got a memoir,
Mhm.
we've got like a history type of
Mhm.
thing going on, and then we've got a novel.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite of the 3?
That's hard because probably I bet you guys feel similarly about like your music. It's like the most recent project tends to feel like your best work,
Mm-hmm.
or at least your most evolved work.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I would say the novel is the best like version of my writing. You know, the first book will always have a little tender spot for being your first book and everything.
Mhm.
But if I like rewrote it now, I think it would be a lot different, a lot better. So yeah.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you're an author, you're a creative, you're an author and a podcaster of Stone and Clay podcast, by the way. And so we're podcast studio buddies. And what's really cool, we wanted to have Taylor first because Taylor had us when we first moved here to Utah. Our first podcast, being on anybody's podcast, was with Taylor. He invited me and then Mina, and I think that was it was right after that. Like one of the clips, one of the clips, I had nothing to do with me. I just said, yeah. I just agreed with you.
Just amazing energy.
But what you said was, what was it? Something about mediocre love, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you're not going to settle for mediocre love.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, bro, bet, or something like
Yeah,
that. Like it was like a 7-second clip, and that went went really took off. And ever since then, I'm not saying that it was because of us, but at all. I'm just saying, but ever since then, like you've kind of been on a hockey stick.
Mhm.
Like on a rocket ship with the podcast, with your following. And so I just think this is so cool that you were willing to come on our podcast, because you were, after being on your podcast, we're like, we were driving home. We're like, we feel like we're supposed to start our own finally.
yeah.
We knew we were going to do it,
Right.
but it was like, okay, let's go. So
Yeah.
you really inspired us. But as a creative, you think differently.
Mhm.
Do you ever find yourself in a day or around other people and you're like, I'm a human and I have a lot in common with everybody in the world.
Mhm.
I'm not superior, but I process the world differently. Do you ever feel that?
Probably, but I also think most people process things differently.
Mhm.
I just think a lot of people get caught in very like systematic ways of expressing themselves or acting, but we all have like incredibly deeply unique thoughts and experiences. So I wouldn't count myself special in that regard. I do find that, yeah, I think I do feel a little odd or different at times, but I would assume everyone does,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
The way you answered that just proves that you think differently than most people. but I understand, like, you document things. Not everybody documents
Yeah.
their life,
Right.
right? Like, just the way that you process things. Like, as songwriters and as an author myself,
Mhm.
like, you look at things and you think, oh, that's a song, or that's a blog post, or
Yeah.
that's a that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So, I mean, I guess reframing that question, like, how does your work as an author and as a podcaster and all things that you do affect the way that you look at the world?
Yeah. I think I'm just sort of like mining life for experience and for stories. And so I think it makes me like deeply observant because I want to notice things that most people don't notice because
Mhm.
I want it to sort of cement in my brain so I can use it later, you know, whether it's the unique like color of someone's eyes where, they're like, whether it's blue or green, but it's kind of striated in there. Like I want to see things that most people miss.
Mhm.
And not that I'm special because I caught it, but just because I'm so curious and I want to observe as much as I can. And so, and I want to be able to, I'm sure you guys feel this, like when you're podcasting, like it's something you want to do sort of indefinitely. So you're like, I want to be able to use any part of my life. I want to be able to bring it up in a cogent way on my show whenever. Right.
Yep.
And so, yeah, any interaction I have with a human that's positive or beautiful, I want to be able to be like, when somebody asks me about human relationships or something, I want to be like, oh yeah, well, I had this conversation with my friend Victor yesterday and we were, and so, yeah, just get obsessed with remembering moments and capturing them, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I don't know if we have a lot of would-be creatives or aspiring authors or people of that nature on the podcast or listening right now, but I'd imagine we do. I imagine there's some people, and so you're that, and if you're that, you're also an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So both of those things. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to be an author or wants to be an influencer or a podcaster or create in these types of ways?
Yeah. That's tough because it's like 4 very different answers.
Okay.
But like for writing, my most basic advice is read a lot and write a lot. Don't worry about the publishing. Don't worry about the industry. Don't worry about the commercialization of your book. Worry about writing and reading a lot. And you won't find an amazing author that hasn't written tons and tons and tons his whole life,
Mm.
And then, yeah, with podcasting, with content creation, it's all kind of the same vein where it's like, just put out content. Like I have people hitting me up for like content help, and they have all these ideas and they want to strategize, and they're like, I don't know about this or about this, and I'm like, I don't care. You're not posting every day.
Mm.
Come back to me and chat when you're posting every day, and then we can tweak. Then we can improve and we can add this and take out this. But you're not even giving your followers a chance to like you.
Wow. Wow.
And so I'm always like, because listen, I've been like making content. Like I started my podcast in like 2019, and for like the first like 4 years, I probably grew like 1%.
Mhm.
Like it was my friends and family that were listening, and then the occasional like friend of friend, the occasional, somebody would share an episode on YouTube and someone would find it, but it was this uphill sloth of a climb. But I was learning all the time. I was learning what was working and what wasn't working. But I literally didn't start growing until I started posting every day.
Wow. Okay.
For 4 years, I didn't really grow. Like I would check my analytics and I would,
Right.
I would get some marginal growth that I would like be excited about, that if I saw now, I'd go out back in the orchard and hurt myself. But
The orchard.
yeah. But but once I started posting every single day, like growth was almost inevitable. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've recently been reminded of the importance of consistency. It reminds me of a quote. There's a course creator, and he's talking about creating online courses, but he said, "We love speed and imperfect action because it allows you to gain momentum, which you can then use into reinvesting into making your product perfect."
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So that's great. That's money.
And I always tell people that are trying to create, I'm like, think about the creators you love and mimic what they're doing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just go and, you think of, because these days there's so much at our fingertips with content that you really only follow the creators that you love.
Yeah.
You want to see their updates all the time. You want to see what things they're coming out with. And so if they go a week without posting, you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I need more content, And so like I tell people when they're asking me for advice, I'm like, dude, I treat posting like it's an essential part of my life.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, I'm posting. Birthday, I'm posting.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day, I'm a little bit Irish, but I post,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's okay. So you start posting, and you said start posting and then start tweaking.
Yeah.
Right. And the assumption there is that you're going to do that based on the analytics, right? You're going to watch what's working, right? And that's what the entrepreneurs would say. Like, if you really want to grow, then you look at your analytics and you make data-driven decisions. And I love that. I also struggle with it as an authentic creator, right? Because there's also this part of you that just wants to create authentically and not pay attention to the stats. What is that balance for you? Like giving the audience, quote unquote, what they want,
right,
versus what's really truly passionate for you.
Yeah. I try not to pay attention to analytics besides the outliers, the videos that go really viral. I'm like, okay, these are obviously striking a chord, right? And so I want to double down on what's working, and the other things I'll experiment with a little bit. And yeah, there are posts that I make that I'm like, I think this is great. I think this is beautiful. I think there's utility with this. I don't really care if it necessarily blows up. I think it should. I hope it does.
Right.
But I ultimately have very little control over that. The good news is the more you grow, the easier it is for something to do well. And so I worry way more when I'm looking at like my analytics, like how many views on a video. I worry way more about my floor moving than my ceiling. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I'm averaging, like, if a video flops and doesn't do well, if a flop for me is like 10,000 views, if my low end starts climbing and all of a sudden my bad videos are getting 20,000 views at minimum, that's how I know I'm doing well and I'm growing, because the highs, they'll fluctuate so much.
Yeah.
But you can pay attention to your floor to really see how you're growing.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I love that.
Dropping some wisdom. This is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have a couple other questions more, like about your background and story.
Yeah.
But while we're on this vein, like this is really wavy. I think I mentioned like last year when we had our episode that, to my knowledge, was that clip was the first one that really did a big rocket for you. And so from the outside looking in, it seemed like since in the last year, it's been a pretty big turning point for your followership and everything. And I remember talking to you around that time, and you kind of made a shift in your mentality about it. And you said, I'm going to go kind of all in on this, like, you know, no B plan type of vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm right on that. Like, but what has been I guess looking back, what were the turning points in where you are now versus where you were then? Because like you said, you had a podcast since 2019. Right. So like, what have been the biggest things that changed?
There's been a few things. The first thing is just the invaluable asset of having our producer Tommy, a studio, and just high quality content to put out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that for the first 4 years of my podcast, and you know, it was a little bit lack of everything. I didn't have the capital, I didn't have the contacts, I didn't have the know-how. You know, I was good at the podcasting part, but was not good at the tech side and didn't know anyone, you know. And then sort of serendipitously met Tommy, and I have to attribute that to God.
Yeah.
You know, Spencer, my best friend, you know, sort of invites me into his world of music and his friends, and that's how I met Tommy. And the beautiful thing is, Tommy met with me and he's like, I wouldn't have worked with you if you hadn't have had 68 episodes already recorded and proof that you could do this and you wanted to do it. And so,
wow,
you know, it's easy to look back at my journey and be like, yeah, those first 4 years were kind of a waste because I didn't grow. I didn't really get much done, but it enabled me to get to where I am today, you know? So meeting Tommy was a huge turning point for me. It was really the crux of everything that's happening now. And then another one was, you know, my plan B. I never really had a plan B. I just had a plan survive. You know,
right.
I had a plan S. And so I waited tables for like 7 years. And I took a couple like jobs in tech in between that sort of fully drained my soul of any joy.
Yeah.
And so I went back to waiting tables. And for me, waiting tables was kind of fun. It was social. It was quick money.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit more flexible than a 9 to 5. And I felt like I could get more done creatively.
And it wasn't sapping creativity from you.
Yeah. Because I didn't, you know, get home and just immediately have the Sunday scaries.
Oh, what are the Sunday scaries?
The Sunday scaries are when it's Sunday night and you suddenly remember, oh, I have to go to work tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get scared. I'm starting to feel it. It's starting to get spooky, you know. And it'll hit at a different time. You know, it'll be like you just finished up dinner or something. You're feeling good. You're laughing with the family, and then you're like, oh, I have to be at work at 8 a.m.
That is so true.
under fluorescent lighting.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to make it, you know?
The Sunday scaries.
And so I've been known to get Sunday scaries on a Thursday, you know? But, so waiting tables for me was a great way to sort of stave off that depression. And, so yeah, I did that for a while. And then I remember talking to you about this, but I sort of started offering one-on-one coaching services about relationships and dating, and some of it sort of podcast or content consulting, and it was going well, and it was moving quickly. And I was talking to a friend, and she's like, because I told her, I was like, yeah, I think I want to quit waiting tables in a few months once I save a little bit more money, and she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what? I was like, you know, it's just, I only have so many clients right now. And I only have these few little baby streams of revenue, you know, and, you know, they're really brooks of revenue.
Brooks of revenue.
And so I was like, I don't, you know, and she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, you have the ability to do this, and if you just go all in, you'll get more clients.
Mm.
You'll get the things you want. She's like, why don't you just, what are you waiting for?
Wow.
And she's like, what does a few months mean? And I was like, and I really trusted her advice. She's a creative. She's really smart. She understands the podcasting world a little bit. And so I just said, all right, I'll text my manager. And I texted my manager when I got off the phone with her, and I was like, yo, like, I'll stay on it as long as you need me, but I think I'm going to be done pretty soon. And he's like, I can take you out the schedule next week. Like, we're good. And so I was like, all right. Cool. So I had like 2 more shifts and I was done.
Boom.
And I was all in. And there's something about being all in that, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's just like
not having a backup plan.
Yeah. You're just like, okay, well, now I'm here. I don't have any more excuses. I don't have any more like, well, I don't have the time because it's like, no, I'm all in.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just tried to lean into that.
Bro.
Yeah.
That's exciting and super powerful. And looking back at all of the years and all the things and the jobs and the things that you put out that didn't quite make sense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these moments like where Tommy says, hey, I wouldn't have considered you if you hadn't put 68 episodes out before.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. So you just see the preparation. They always say hindsight's 20/20, but I see that right now. Like I'm getting big opportunities and lots of different opportunities based on things that I was doing 15 years ago.
Right.
That at the time I'm like, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? But there's the principle, if you are faithful with a little, you'll be trusted with more.
Yeah.
It's a test
Yeah.
for your next level. And so I've been really pondering that lately and just really trying to handle what's in front of me with grace and steward the opportunities in front of me right now well, so I can be trusted with more.
Can I tell you one more thing that was sort of a windfall for me is I got invited to be a guest on this podcast out in Dallas, and he's a pretty big name, and it's not out yet, so I won't say who it is, but I went out there, and it was the first time I've like flown out somewhere to be a guest, you know, and so it was exciting and everything, but when I got there and like talked to him, I was like, this is like fully what my dream is, what he's doing on that level in every way. You know, he had this amazing, beautiful studio in his home. He had this beautiful wife that was like his manager. And like, I just was obsessed with everything. And I was like, this is possible. Like, I can do this. Like, this isn't beyond the pale for me, right? This is to see somebody in the flesh doing what you're doing at a higher level, but you're like, yo, I can hang. I can do this. You know, it's like, you know, if you're unsure of your skills on the court, but you're playing pickup with guys that like play D1 ball and you're like, yo, like I can hang.
Yep.
You know, I might not be like the number one player here, but I can freaking hang.
Yeah.
I'm not a scrub. And so it's funny. I went with Tommy came with me and I told him, I was like, dude, even if this episode doesn't even come out, this trip was deeply worth it.
Yeah.
This was like the most motivating thing I could have ever done. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. That leads me. I said I have 2 questions, but now you gave me another question. So.
Yeah.
All right. So then we got to jump. We have another. So the arc, we've got an arc planned, but other than that, we have no, it's just flowing. And so this is really great. But I was going to ask, like, what is the future? What is your ideal future? When you paint the picture for us where you like this to go, and how do you stay rooted and grounded and humble as you continue to ascend?
Yeah. I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
I don't think I have any reason to be anything but humble. You know, like I'm good at a number of things, and I'm absolutely like god awful at a lot of things. and when you're doing, you know, besides my producer and manager, like I'm a one-man show. And so I'm very aware of all of my weaknesses every day. And so I think I stay grounded just because I don't know, the alternative is kind of gross. You know, I'm not like there's nothing special about me. It's just it's really rewarding to be able to do something that you feel like people resonate with, you know.
Amen.
What was the first question?
Like, where do you see it going? Like, what's your vision for
Yeah,
this?
you know,
Just for your life. in general,
I feel like I currently love what I'm doing and want to just do it on a higher level, you know, and I want to keep writing books. I want to keep putting out podcasts. I want to keep coaching. I'm doing like one of my first speaking events in a few weeks. I'm like,
let's go.
Speaking at a wellness center in Kentucky.
Let's go.
You know, I didn't even know Kentucky was a real place. You know, I'm just kidding. I've been to Kentucky, but yeah, like I just want to keep like being a voice that people can resonate with. You know, I'm not really in the business of becoming an expert in anything or trying to evangelize some sort of way of living. I just want to be somebody that people listen to and they're like, oh, like that's kind of how I feel, you know?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So that kind of answers the question of kind of what your blueprint is. That seems to be
like if I have a 5-year plan, it's just to be doing exactly what I'm doing on a higher level.
It's dope.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And you, it seems like you have a good understanding of what it is that makes you unique, what it is that resonates with your audience, and you never veer from it. You've just been really consistent.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is when people ask me all the time, like, what inspired you to start the podcast? And I'm like, just wanted to do it. Like, thought it'd be fun. I didn't have like this great spiritual impetus. I just was like, yeah, I like talking to people. I'm curious. I like telling stories. And so if you go back and listen to those first 30, 40 episodes, I'm all over the place. Like I hadn't really carved out any themes, you know? And it's funny, the themes that I've come back to time and time again, it's been very just organic. It's been what's been on my mind, what's been on my heart. And that'll fluctuate over time, but ultimately, like I tell people, you know, sort of my elevator pitch is that my podcast is about like relationships, love, mental health, faith. And, you know, some people, because I talk so much about being single, some people will be like, well, dude, what are you going to do when you get married? And I'm like, be happy. But
talk about that.
But I'm like, yeah, dude, I talk about relationships. And so I, you know, like you guys, like, and you guys talk about being single.
Yeah.
And you talk about being married and love and parenting. And that's all the stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Do we have more books in the works?
Yeah. I'm working on another novel right now.
Oh, what's it about?
Yeah. It's about, I've told almost no one, but I know I can trust you and your subscribers.
In the worldwide audience.
Yeah. No, it's kind of this idea of they're making a docu-series about the oldest living man while he's still alive. And so it's just this old man sort of reflecting on his life. And so it's a lot of just going back and talking about his relationships and his ideas of love and God. And, but it's funny, the first like 40 pages, I didn't realize the book was about that. And so the first 40 pages are kind of a pump fake for what the story is really about.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So it ends up being, the first bit, you're following this woman and you think the story's about her, and then she gives birth to this person that becomes the main character. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this book was about this woman, and I thought like, yeah, I want to write. I've never written, you know, sort of from the perspective of a woman, and I want to kind of get into a woman's brain, and not in a creepy way, but I want to, you know, I don't want to be like some incubus. I just want to like, I just want to understand and but yeah, I kind of had to get out of the way of the story,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
I love hearing authors talk like that, where it's like, you know, you allow the book to be what it wants to be versus what you want it to be,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that that's so interesting because when you're a creative, one of the things that we don't really acknowledge is that if you're creating, it's a collaboration, it's a
Mhm.
spiritual collaboration. And it's coming from somewhere other than just within you.
Yeah.
And so when you write a story, like the most noble of authors will tell you, like, you have to let the story be what it wants to be. You have
Yeah.
to let the character develop into who the character already is.
Right.
It's like you're discovering the character as you're writing it,
Yeah.
not like you're creating the character.
Right. And you have to sort of get rid of some hubris there, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, Rick Rubin said that art is an offering to God.
Hmm.
And I love that because I think that's what I think it is, you know? And I can't remember who it was. One of my favorite authors said, he's like, I create the characters and then what they do is none of my business.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that quote.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's like once you've kind of given yourself over to the story,
Mhm.
it really isn't you anymore. And you have to separate yourself from what's actually going on the page
Right.
because it's this whole world, this whole universe independent of you.
Yeah. Well, have you heard, I think it was a poet that said this. I think it was maybe Allen Ginsberg or something, but he said, you have to be able to kill your darlings.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
no, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. And he was talking about, you know, you get so obsessed with, you've put so much work into something, whether it's a song or a poem or a novel. And so to like cut an entire chapter or something, you're like, that's my baby.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I freaking slaved over this for a year and now I'm just going to throw it away.
Yeah.
Now it's nothing. But it's kind of like you said, you have things you worked on 15 years ago that at the time felt like, okay, this brought me no real level of success. This
Right.
brought me no forward momentum, yet somehow it propelled me to where I am today.
Yeah.
So as an artist, you have to be able to kill your darlings, I think.
Mm,
Oh
that's-
man,
that's
there's
good.
so many lessons in creativity. I mean, that's not something we talk about on our podcast a lot of the time,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
that's our life
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm just thinking, just very very much the same. Like in your preparation, your consistent preparation is what prepares you for the opportunity when it comes. And I'm just grateful for consistency because I remember like just recently there's a song that I think is going to get released. I know it's going to get released. We're just in the process of doing that with The King Will Come. And I go into a session and we're have the producer creating this track and people are like, oh, what should this song be about? And what did I do? I went back to, I just do this 3-minute songwriting exercise every day. That's all I do. And I just generate some ideas and practice some, rhyming skills and free association, some other things like that. And one of the just random titles I had in there was like Breezy. It's
Mhm.
like it'd be cool to have a song called Breezy. I
Yeah.
said, hey guys, what
Mhm.
about it feels like this? And I was like, yeah. And so that it becomes. So like, my point is like, you just never know. You really never know what the small. I love what Neil A. Maxwell said. He said that today's small inflection for good leads to tomorrow's mountain of character.
Yeah.
And it really is the monumental, not the monumental, that really prepares you for things that will take you to the next level. So anyway,
Monumental.
the
I like
monumental.
that.
Just made that up.
Can we get a fact check?
Yeah. Anyway, kind of last question on your story. We could just dig in on your story, the entire episode, but you don't maybe get a chance to share everything with your audience, right? You're interviewing other people, you're sharing insights, but just curious, what about Taylor that you haven't shared with your audience, would you like to share with them?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I do a solo episode about every 10 episodes, and I do a lot of answering Q&A and stuff, and so I get into a lot of personal stuff. So yeah, I don't know that there's anything that I've kind of withheld or
Okay.
or I kind of share a lot, and yeah, and some things I haven't purposefully like withheld. I'm just like, they haven't come up in an organic fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like sharing is just like, here's a piece of trivia about me. Like,
Right.
please care.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
if people ask me about it, I'm happy to, I'll get into anything, you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's kind of what I'm after in a way. Is like, is there any trivia, any fun facts about you that people don't know that that'd be kind of
Dude,
fun
I
to
used
share?
to be really sick with a yo-yo.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go.
like,
I remember that era.
Yeah,
When people were doing all the yo-yo tricks and stuff.
5th, 6th, 7th grade. I'm a big hobby guy. I've always been obsessed with hobbies, and some of them I've taken to the extreme.
Like Spikeball.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask you, what the heck is round ball? How do you play it, and how do you become a champion spikeball player? Because somehow you are.
These are terrific questions. Spikeball is a strange little niche sport that I'm sure if you haven't heard of it, if you Google it, you've probably seen people play at parks or on the beach or whatever. And I just started playing one summer. Like, somebody brought a set to Lake Powell, and then I get home and someone was like, "Hey, are you playing on the tournament on Friday?" And I was like, "Yo, yes." let me get a partner. Like, yes, I just love competing.
Yeah.
And I won the tournament. And so I was like, let's go. We're off to the races. And
It's crazy.
it was a tiny little local independent tournament. But yeah, then I found out people were traveling and sponsored, and I was like, it's just like anything nowadays. Like, people are professional cornhole players,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
that's wild to me.
And some of these sports that are even weirder than Spikeball just happen to have more funding.
Yeah.
And so have bigger tournaments or bigger prize pools or whatever. And so, honestly, if Spikeball had like the same capital as like pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably be doing it like full time,
Yeah.
Wow.
But like, as it is, I'll travel to a tournament in New York, and if I win, I'll like maybe get like $300.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
like, it's more for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Best case scenario, you're breaking even,
Yeah.
And so a lot of the best players in the world are just young college students that are probably not using their funds very smartly, And so my relationship with Spikeball always waxes and wanes, because I love playing, I love competing, but I don't feel like I can be all in.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a lot in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just love playing.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun, man. I would love to play. We always talk about playing sports together, and
Yeah.
it's all contingent
You
upon my
never do.
body.
Right?
I'm getting my body right, y'all. We're gonna
That's
get my
right.
body right. I'm gonna get out there. I still got goals.
I've been waiting.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, well, can we shift to some other topics, if that's cool? Just a couple.
Yeah.
We had a couple things in mind. As you know, the podcast is about bridge building in every area of life.
Yeah.
We say we're here to make bridge building sexy for the first time.
Right.
Because it's never been sexy
Because it's
before.
not, and that's our life. bridge
Listen,
building.
I'm happy to bring any level of sexiness. if I can do it, if I can be a part of that journey, yeah. I don't know if I'm your guy, but
I think you are. Babe, did you have something in particular you wanted to ask? Related to bridge building.
In the bridge building arena,
Mhm.
I have two questions. So the first one is, how would you define bridge building?
Mhm.
Because you're an author,
Sure.
and
yeah.
I'm sure that you have some poetic ways to. I
No
mean,
pressure.
I don't wanna put
Just
that pressure on you.
Just say everything
But
really poetically.
if you had to define
Yeah.
bridge building, how would you
Um,
define it?
I don't know. I think I'm sure I don't think about bridge building as much as you guys. It's like this, like, really central part of your lives for a lot of beautiful reasons. For me, I think about bridge building as, how can I connect with somebody that there's no reason on paper to connect with, maybe. People that are sort of on the outskirts of culture or outskirts of life. And I don't know. I think we all have really specific gifts. And I think, like, for myself, I'm good at having different kinds of friends. And so to me, the bridge building in my life is probably feels really small. You know, it's not with organizations and huge groups. It's on a one-on-one, you know, it's how can I build a bridge interpersonally with someone. And even though we come from, like, me and you, like, you look at our walks of life, like, name the ways they're different. It'll be a really long list, you know, but I think bridge building is about focusing on the commonalities and seeing the beauty in something that somebody has that you don't, and not obsessing over, like, well, where do we agree? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what?
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like you should say whatever.
Okay, no, I will.
Is that the right answer?
That's a great, no, it's a great answer. And no, it's so good. And it reminded me of this, like, because Mina's siblings, you know, quite a few of them because they're in the Kingdom Will Come, and so you get to hang out with them. And early on, I remember a conversation I had with one of your brothers, a couple of your brothers, about church, and it was like, no, yeah, he's dope. He's dope. Like, yeah, he kind of surprises you, like, like he kind of
sneakily dope.
Like he kind of surprises you. It wasn't the word swaggy, but it was basically, I don't know, as a white guy, Caucasian guy, whatever the labels, there's a certain validation that comes when your black friends, like, you know, accept you.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Like, and
it's not just about acceptance, because they can accept you and still think you're corny. Like, they think you're cool.
Yeah, right.
It's not just like they think you're cool.
Right, exactly.
And they do like your swag. Like, they like the way you present yourself.
Right.
Not just like interpersonally, relationally, but like even your style. Like, they just they like you.
Yeah. So the question was, like, how did you get so swaggy? But but it actually does relate to bridge building. I'll probably answer it for you. I think one of the principles of bridge building is authenticity. And I think you are authentic. You also kind of know how to, what we'd say, you know how to walk, right? Like, you know how to, like, adapt to different spaces. And I think because of your background as an athlete, there's certain things that you understand about culture, like black culture there, that I think allow you to just, you know, relate more. Yeah. So maybe there's some of those things, right? But you bring a lot of those things into your relationships. I've just observed that you're really good at being yourself in every situation, but bringing this part of yourself as a highlight or into the spotlight to make sure that you can relate to people. Right. And I think you naturally bridge build, even if it's not a central part of your life.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You're also hilarious. So there's that.
I mean, listen, humor is a really easy way to connect with people.
Yeah.
You know, because especially when you first meet people have these weird little carapaces around them, right? And
I'm sorry, say that word again.
Carapace. You know, like a turtle's shell, right?
Wow.
And
I love that.
That's great.
And so humor really disarms people.
Yeah.
And makes people be like, oh, like, I can be myself. I can say something stupid. I can be silly too. And so, and it also, I want to try to express at all times that I don't take myself seriously. You know, even if I'm, like, talking about something really serious and I'm being really earnest, I still am like, I'm not doing this because I think I'm smart or because I think I'm elevated. These are just thoughts that I have, you know? So yeah, I think humor is a really easy way to build bridges.
I love that. So authenticity and humor are bridge builders.
And you know what? I was raised in Las Vegas and Phoenix, and was in certain pockets and certain times, like, almost a racial minority. You know, I've been to, like, little junior high parties where I was one of 2 white guys,
Yeah.
and so, it's interesting. You don't want to, as a white guy, like amongst like Black people or Hispanics, you don't want to like just copy what they're doing,
Yeah.
but you want to be able to like relate and be like, I'm not just some corny white guy, right? like a white guy's worst nightmare is to be considered corny.
Oh, bro, yeah, no doubt.
And so, yeah, I think at a young age, I was, like talking to Black people wasn't like weird.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when white people aren't used to being around Black people, they're almost like,
You can tell.
yeah, they're almost like, okay, I've seen Black people on TV,
Mhm.
so let me try to talk to them like they talk
Yeah.
On TV.
on TV,
Because
right.
that's the way
Right?
Black people talk on
Right.
TV
right?
and the way they talk in real life
Yeah, they
are
start
2 very different things.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your show.
Yeah.
Depends on the show.
Moesha.
And it depends on the show.
Yeah.
With Mr. Cooper.
Yeah, are you watching Black 90s sitcoms
Right.
or? Yeah, if that's your exposure to African Americans, you're gonna be a little lost.
Or
Mhm.
TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
TikTok is, especially with young people,
Sure.
they have a lot of exposure to Black people that way.
Yeah.
And being in the airport in Salt Lake City and hearing these children speak like people that they heard on TikTok
Yeah,
is
yeah.
one of the most jarring experiences
Sure.
I
yeah.
have ever had.
But it's crazy because I don't think people realize like Black culture is so diverse. Like if you go and talk to like Black people in New York and you talk to Black people in Chicago and Black people in Detroit and Florida, they sound so different. Their vernacular's
Yep.
different. Their fashion's different.
Mm-hmm.
Even like, if you want to go really into it, you got like Black people in Long Island, you got Black people in Brooklyn, you got
Yeah.
Black people in upstate New York.
And we can all tell where everybody's from.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So
and we're all from New York.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because as a white person to assume like, well, this is how Black people talk.
Yeah.
It's like saying that's how, it's just such a wild generalization.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's what we always say with that is like, get to know. Okay, let me say this. Some people say, get to know the person, not the color.
Mhm.
We say, get to know the person and the color.
Yeah.
Because the color is part
Right.
of you.
Yeah.
But there's way more to it. But don't ignore color.
Yeah. I hate when
Being
people say
colorblind,
like,
right?
oh, I don't see color.
No.
It's like, well, what do you see?
absolutely love that.
Right.
It's like that's green. Do you see that?
Yeah, if
You
you're
know what I mean?
If you're colorblind, like
Yeah.
we can talk, but like there's a clear pigment difference here,
Yes. And it's okay.
And
right?
ignoring it really does it a disservice. It doesn't. It
Yeah.
does everyone a disservice.
Well,
not
it's like saying like I don't see tall people. To me, they're all the same height. It's like, well, you're living in fantasy land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
fact, bro. Yeah. No, so you're pulling out like that idea, like getting to know people, no group of people as a monolith, right? So
Mhm.
get to know the individual and then getting proximate, being in spaces that you're not normally in prepares you and helps you to, because you can only learn so much from observing through media or
Yep.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm obsessed with like I never think asking somebody a question is inappropriate. Right.
That's great.
And so I've gotten to know a lot about a lot of different cultures because I just ask,
Mhm.
like
Mm.
and some people along the way might get offended because they love to get offended,
Yeah.
but like
do.
I remember like I was kind of talking to this Black girl one time and I was like, you got to help me understand what's going on with your hair. I don't understand anything about Black women's hair.
Yeah.
So I need a full tutorial,
Yes.
And because she trusted me and everything, it wasn't weird and I wasn't trying to offend her.
All right.
But I think that's way better than just always wondering,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of bridge building, what is the most challenging bridge that you've ever had to build?
That's a really good question. I think I have so many like meaningful, rich relationships in my life that I struggle to be around people that aren't bringing stuff to the table, you know, that aren't sort of edifying me in some way or another, even if it's really trivial or minimal, like, and so it's hard because I want to be kind to everyone and I want to let everyone in, but there's only so much space.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I struggle with people that I'm like, oh man, like, I'm sure you're great, but you're just like, yeah, you're just a little bit tough to talk to. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm not loving this. But I want, like I said, I want to be somebody that everybody is comfortable coming up to and talking to and sharing their problems with or asking for help. But I know there are times where I maybe put off a vibe that's like, maybe don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you do, like, I'll be cool,
Yeah.
but, and I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
you know, but I know it happens sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's
Yeah.
fair. So I think that's a good segue into, we didn't realize this. One of our buckets, like our content buckets, we said is faith, relationships, bridge building. Those are our three main things. But we realized bridge building kind of became the overarching thing because we started realizing that bridge building happens everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so our mission has become like, we want to see bridges built between couples, between people, between ethnicities, between religions, and just across the entire world. So bridge building has become a bigger theme for us than just the black-white dynamic, the Pentecostal Latter-day Saint dynamic, although that's a huge part of it. So it's really delved into interpersonal relationships, but specifically romantic relationships. A lot of our audience is very interested in our story and what the insights we have there, and I know a lot of your audience is as well. So related to that, if you're cool, if we can start talking and moving into that conversation. I know you talk about this a lot, and I mean, where are you at with the whole single journey? Is it a pain point for you right now? Where, I mean, just like honestly, like where's your headspace as far as being single right now?
Gosh, it really oscillates, you know, like there are days where it feels like this overwhelming crucible that I can't get away from, you know? And I always say, I think I would be so much better if I could just get my hands on a nice little crystal ball, you know, and just see the light at the end of the tunnel. But here I am without a crystal ball, you know? So I'm just working with faith and with hope. And so, yeah, there are days where I'm like, man, this is really weighing on me, and this is the hardest thing that I have going on. And there are days where I'm at a lot of peace, and I'm like really trusting the Lord and really trusting that, because at the end of the day, here's the hard part. I have to trust the Lord, but I also have to trust myself that I have things to bring to the table and that I am a good asset. I'm a good candidate for somebody. And it's hard because when you're perpetually single, everyone tells you how great you are, but it feels really shallow at times. Because you're like, if I was so great, you know, I wouldn't like I've been the best man at a wedding, I think 7 times.
Yeah.
Feels like if I was the best man, I'd be the man getting married, you know? Feels like I'm an okay man, you know? And so sometimes it's hard to believe that you're somebody's best option when you never have been. And maybe you have been for a season, but for whatever reason, it didn't last. And so, yeah, I think the challenge is, yes, you trust in the Lord and his timing and what he has provided for you and that providence, but you also have to trust in yourself that you can be ready when it comes,
Mhm.
that you can, like, I don't think you're going to get things you don't believe in.
Wow.
You know, I wouldn't be where I'm at with my, you know, podcast journey and my art if I didn't believe it was possible. You know, you don't, I think most instances in life, you don't stumble upon, you know, these lottery tickets,
Yeah.
you know? And so, yeah, at the end of the day, I have to believe, yeah, I am going to be somebody's absolute dream guy. I'm going to be the answer to their prayers. I'm going to be everything they've ever wanted. And when you've faced a lot of rejection, it's hard to believe that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So, as a single person, if you did have that crystal ball
Mhm.
and you knew that in June of 2028,
Mhm.
you're going to be married
Mhm.
happily,
Yeah, yeah.
how would that change how you act today?
Oh, man, I'd be big chillin'. Like, I don't, yeah, it would be such a weight off my shoulders.
Wow.
I think I would act similarly. Like, I still move forward with faith. I still, but I think it would be one less thing that weighs on me on a nightly basis, you know? And a lot of times, I don't know, do you guys struggle with just having negative thoughts spiral?
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty human condition.
Like
You
the
know?
crux of overthinking.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, just-
But I think for me, I think whatever's the hardest thing you're dealing with, a lot of your negative thoughts always make their way back to that,
Oh,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really annoying, but there have been times where I've like, whatever, I've had a bad basketball game and I'm like pissed at myself and I'm like, oh man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And then for some reason, my deranged thoughts go towards, well, you're also apparently not good enough to date anyone seriously.
Wow.
And I'm like, where's the correlation? You think girls care what my shooting percentage is in a
Right.
rec league game?
Right.
You sure don't. I've taken girls to basketball games and the game ends and they ask if we won. They don't know.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Dang.
I say you guys, I say you can, the cool thing is they have a scoreboard and also read the body language. There's a big difference between we won and we lost, you know?
The fact.
Oh my gosh.
But it's like,
They asked if you won? Holy cow.
Sure.
Wow, that's
you know, not every girl's into sports. Not every girl, you know,
That's
has
true.
brothers,
Yeah.
you know?
true.
But but yeah, it's so annoying that sometimes my negative thoughts sort of metastasize and become just come back to that one central issue that consumes my thoughts.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's really helpful to verbalize that at times and be like, oh yeah, that's just, I call it, I say I got a wizard in my brain.
Mm.
I got a freaking wizard in my brain and he's doing whatever he's doing, but you know, it's not rooted in common sense.
Yeah.
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 Have you ever seen Inside Out too?
Huh.
Oh, you gotta watch both of them.
I
Because
haven't seen the first one.
I think you would like the way they characterize what goes on in our minds, like
Yeah,
on
yeah.
a daily basis.
yeah,
And
yeah.
basically, it's like this panel of emotions.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the first one, there's Joy, and she's kind of at the center of the console, and
Mhm.
she's like there's an emotions console,
Okay,
and
yeah,
she's like she's the one in control of the console. And then you've got sadness, and you've got disgust,
Mhm.
and
Anger.
anger.
Yeah, yeah.
Anger's hilarious. It's like this little, this short little like Joe Pesci type character,
Yeah.
and his like head like lights on fire when he's really angry. And you know, it's like Inside Out is about a little girl, and it's like her growing up phases
Mm.
and, you know, how these different characters come to the fore,
Yeah.
you know, in her mind, and how the brain, it's brilliant, like how the brain works explained to you on a
Yeah.
childlike
Okay. Yeah.
level.
That's cool.
And in the second one, they're, you know, just plugging along, but their girl, they call her their girl, and she's entering puberty. And so there's like this new button that shows up on the console,
Mhm.
and a new character strolls in and starts just like renovating their space.
Yeah.
And this character is anxiety.
Mm.
And anxiety takes over the entire control panel.
Yeah.
And there's one moment where it thinks it's in control, and then it just loses control, and there's this spiral going on
Yeah.
in the console room. And Joy's kind of standing in the background like, what the heck? Like, what is going on here? And there's one thought that keeps just pinging. I'm not enough.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And she's in the middle of a hockey game.
Mhm.
And she's having this life altering moment. She's having like an anxiety attack
Yeah.
in the penalty box of this hockey game because she got angry on the ice, and she's having an anxiety attack. And that's the thing that she's worried about.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Right.
I'm not good enough. And I mean, okay, your skills in hockey, but like, how did we get to that?
Yeah.
You know? And that's what it sounds like, you know, those spirals is just like, it always comes back to what the real root underneath everything is, you know, like, oh, you're not good enough to be with anyone. That's why you're still single.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what does that have to do with basketball? What does that have to do with hockey?
Yeah.
Not good enough. But like, I think it's interesting how those spirals can really just show you what the root of everything really is. Like, the root of all your insecurity is that one thing.
It's harrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's harrowing. Yeah, very hopeful. Well, okay, so you are now coaching people, right? So related to the topic of singleness, and thanks for being so vulnerable about this. And I would, maybe I'll just say this, like, and we've said it before, like, and actually we asked Chat GPT, and Chat GPT like spat out something so beautiful to us. Like, it's like, wow, you're preaching. But basically it says your singleness is not a punishment. It's preparation. And your worthiness and value is not dependent on your marital status. So that's the big pre-frame here. Like, that's how we feel. I think that's how you feel.
Yeah.
But related to all this, like, it's still extremely real what you these mind games and everything that's going on for you. You're coaching other people. How would you coach yourself?
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself?
I'd say you got a champ. I'd charge myself double, first of all, because I can afford it. No. It's a really, really good question. Yeah, it's funny how we can be so good at giving other people advice because we have that knowledge, we have that wisdom, but to apply it with ourselves, it feels so hard, you know? And a lot of, when I'm coaching, a lot of what I start with, depending on people's needs, are coming back to self-love and giving yourself grace and forgiving yourself. And because I don't think you can really move forward until you have those things taken care of, you know? And so I think it's, you know, if I was to coach myself, I'd be like, buddy, like, I would remind myself how great I am, you know? Which is funny because probably nobody could do it better than me, right? No one knows me better than me. And I'm assuming this is behind closed doors, so no one needs to see this, right?
Right.
Might be a little awkward to like coach myself in front of other people, but it's like, you know, it's like people that do inner child work, you know, I don't know. Have you guys ever done any of that?
Yeah.
You know, I remember I haven't done any deep like therapeutic work with that, but I started writing a letter to myself. and I wrote it to like the 14-year-old me.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what I said was, I was like, man, you don't know it now, but like, you're going to experience a lot of heartbreak. And you probably think you're like going to get married at like 21 and have 3 or 4 kids and, you know, have your life move like this. And that's not what's going to happen. But man, you're going to love so hard, and you're going to have these amazing experiences that you couldn't have had if you got married young. And like, you're going to feel some really extreme pain that right now it's probably hard to really understand, because you're young and you haven't experienced it yet, and there's no way to really prepare you. But just know, like, you're going to be fine, and we're going to be okay, and we're actually going to get through it, and we're going to be happy again. And there's also friendships you'll make that you haven't even met these people yet, and they're going to change your lives, and they're going to make you a fuller person. And all this love that you are going to eventually experience and lose, it's going to open you up and make you a much more beautiful and integrated human, and make your capacity for love is going to be much bigger. And so, yeah, I wrote myself this letter, and I'm just like in my loft crying, because I'm like, for some reason, I think writing is an easier outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of giving myself pep talks is a little harder, but when I sit down, you kind of slow things down, and I don't know, I was able to really feel a lot of grace and patience with myself, and not be so hard on myself. Yeah.
It's good. It's good, man. I really appreciate that. And I think it's also a window into how God feels about you when those moments, because I think we do have different voices speaking different things to us, but we also have God on the inside of us.
Yeah.
And I think the feelings of love and empowerment and grace and encouragement and mercy that we feel towards ourselves, and forgiveness we feel towards ourselves, are just an inkling. I think that's the God inside of us speaking to us. And you could amplify that by a million, how he actually feels about us, an incomprehensible kind of love, the kind of pep talk he would love to give us, and how it would actually feel for him to say it.
Yeah.
If we believe it,
Right.
we have to believe it. But like the energy when he says, you're enough, when he says, you're my son, I love you regardless of anything. And that's, I think that's really important. I think a lot of our audience are people who are trying to, we have a lot of single sisters and single brothers as well, but they are on a similar path, a similar journey. We got married later as well. And so I think that's why they're interested in us, but they're on a similar journey as you, waiting on God for marriage. So what would be your kind of final words of encouragement to anybody who's waiting on God for marriage?
Well, I would say, don't just wait on God. Like, you got to do your part too. You know, you got to put yourself out there. And I always tell people, like, you have to control the controllables, you know, and God will take care of the rest. Right. So within dating, there's a lot of things that are within your control and without it, you know. And so I say, focus on those things that are within your control. You know, you can control, you know, your hygiene.
Yes.
You know, something really simple.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about that one.
Yeah.
If you're not like controlling your hygiene and you're waiting on God, like, you better wait on some deodorant. You know,
That's a fact.
like God's like, yo, I'm trying, bro. Like, but like, you know, we got to get some antiperspirant. But you know, that's a small, silly one. But you know, if you're worried about how many people you're meeting, you got to say, well, that's a little bit in my control. I can be more social. I can decide to be on the dating apps even though I hate them. You can say, I'm going to avail myself emotionally to people. You can do the work. So yes, waiting on God is hard, but I think some people think, well, I've given it to God
Mm-hmm.
and I'll chill now.
Mm.
And it's like, I don't think so. That's how it is with everything. Like, I'm trying to do things with my career. It's like, yeah, I'm putting it in God's hands, but like, I got to do the groundwork,
Mhm.
you know? And so, like I said, the things that are not within your control when it comes to love and dating, it's like, it's how people feel.
Mhm.
It's how, if they love you back, it's timing, it's myriad things, but there's so much within your control, And I always tell people too, I think you should be as picky as you can be, right?
Mm.
If you are a deeply like attractive, in shape person, you can be that picky when it comes to attraction and when it comes to fitness, whatever.
Wow.
If you're kind of a slob, that's fine. That's your prerogative, but you shouldn't be expecting something better than what you are.
Ooh.
Would you agree with that?
Preach.
Yeah.
I have said this before, but I'm really excited to have like a third
cosign.
party,
Yes.
somebody else say these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm married.
Yeah.
I'm already there. To some people, they're thinking like, well, you already have someone, so you can't really talk. But
Yeah.
I know the things that got me to where I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I did not pay attention to my hygiene, if I didn't look good, my husband would not have seen me.
Let me say this. This might upset a certain number of people, and you can remove it if you want. When I'm talking to women that are older and single and struggling, and that's like the majority of people I meet with, honestly. I'll often tell them, if I feel comfortable and I feel like we have a rapport, I'll say, I know you don't want to hear this, but this is just the truth. If you want to increase the number of men you're meeting and the number of like chances you have at romance, the one thing that's deeply within your control is to get into phenomenal shape. That will help you more than almost anything else. That's how men are. We operate off of attraction. We operate
Visual
off of
creatures.
visuals,
Yeah.
right?
And you guys get in trouble for that.
Sure.
So much, especially if you're a follower of Jesus. Like
Mhm.
if you're like a Christian guy, you shouldn't be worried about the outward appearance.
Right.
God doesn't look at the outward appearance.
Yeah.
God looks at the heart. And I'm like, well, he ain't God. He's
Right.
a human,
Yeah.
male type humanoid.
I can't see into
And
someone's heart.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can see their face. I can see their body.
Yeah.
And so,
That's what I
you know what's crazy? Okay. Some of my followers might hate this, but I love you guys. I will get these women shooting their shot in the DMs,
in the DM.
Yeah.
which I respect. I'm here for it,
Yeah.
But they'll shoot their shot and it'll be like a private account with like no profile picture. And I'm like, you don't understand men. Like
Wow.
if you want to shoot your shot, great, but understand that, guys, like this
And then
is,
you're shallow because you want to see. It's like,
I'll even sometimes be like, hey, it's funny that you're shooting your shot when I can't even see your profile.
Wow.
I'll call it what it is,
I love that.
I love that.
but
No,
That's great, bro.
I love that advice because, we say stuff like this all the time, but it's really good to hear somebody else say it. Like, you can't expect what you are not.
right.
People will say this in myriad ways, but it's literally just like, if you want something, become that.
Right.
And that's not to say like, if you're a woman, go be the man you want to be. No,
Right.
or be with. But it's like, if you want somebody who's in shape, get in shape.
Yeah.
If you want somebody who is deeply spiritual and in contact and connection with God, do that.
Right.
Because that's how you're going to get in proximity with other people who have similar interests, is by you being that thing.
Right.
And so I just think it's really great to hear you saying that, because that is so true.
And it's nothing that's magical. It's literally
No.
just how God set up the whole system.
Yeah.
It's like attracts like.
Well, and because because girls will fight back and they'll be like, well, I want a guy that loves me just for me. And I'm like, great, but this will increase your options. It just will,
It will.
you know?
Yeah, man.
And it's like, I could say the same thing. It's funny. Men and women are so shallow in different ways, you know?
Oof.
Like I've had so many, you know, girls along the way that, you know, they don't say it outwardly, but they have lost interest in me because I don't make enough money.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
to me, that's very shallow. Right.
Mhm.
But I get it.
Yeah.
Right. Girls need to feel safe and they need to feel like they're protected and provided for. And a lot of times they don't even realize that's why they feel that way.
Mhm.
It's just sort of this innate thing.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, I can be bugged that women feel like that and be like, well, I just want a girl that will like me for me. Or I can be like, okay, well, to increase my options, I can make more money. I can be more successful. I can grow what I'm doing, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's the same thing for women. Like you can be like, well, I don't want a guy that just wants me for my body. And I'm like, okay. But if you want more options,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, improve there.
Yes, and here's the red flag in
Mhm.
that that is true. And I came on this with my brother Garen a few months ago. We kind of finally understood something together. It was a cool moment because people always talk about motives. They
Mhm.
always talk about, well, you know, what's your motive for doing this? What are your reasons? And reasons is what's operative there, and what's relevant is it's plural.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's chief motive is for you to have money,
Mm-hmm.
that's concerning.
Right.
If their chief motive is for you to have a nice body, that's concerning.
Right.
But it's okay if that's on the list.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be 25 motives and it's all proportionate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and it's never going to be 25 things, 4% of each. It's always going to be like heavily weighted in one direction, right? And if it's mostly heavy, like if the body thing is like the top thing, I think, yeah, okay, let's kind of, you know, maybe move in a different direction with somebody else. But if that's, you know, 34th on the list or somewhere and it factors in, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know? And so, so being well-rounded and being able to check off a lot of boxes, I think is important.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay. We are all a complex system of motives. We just have to watch what our chief motive is. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I tell people I have 5 pillars of dating. So I have 5 things that I need and want.
Okay.
And in my opinion, everything falls under one of those pillars because, you know, some people be like, well, for me, it's kindness and it's humor. And I'm like, well, for me, that falls under this pillar or this pillar. So
Sounds like you and your pillars.
I
Come
know.
on, tell us the
Are you willing to
pillars.
share the 5 pillars?
Are you a pillar boy?
I'm a pillar boy, bro.
Okay, yeah, I'll share it. So for me, and they're in sort of descending order of importance.
Okay.
So number 1 is personality. And to me, most things come back to this, right? And to me, it's like, it's number 1 because this is the person I'm going to be hanging out with the rest of my life. I
Mhm.
better love their personality. I better be obsessed with it. I better love the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they think, the way they parent. You know, I just want to be obsessed with them, right?
Mm.
So to me, personality is number 1 by a landslide.
Okay.
Right? And when I'm dating, I look at these pillars in like a 1 to 10 score. So if I go out with the girl, it's funny. I'll go home and talk to my roommate and he'll be like, what was the personality score? Right. And obviously on a first date, you don't have really tight scores yet,
Yeah.
but you get an idea of is it worth pursuing? Is it worth continuing? Number 2 is attraction. You could throw in physical intimacy, chemistry, etc. And like you said, you have multiple motives. I have attraction really high, but it's not as important as personality.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also, to me, with personality, I need the score to be like a 9+. I need it screaming high. With attraction, I just need it like 7.5.
Yeah.
Right. I have for me if it's less than that, I feel a struggle to be attracted to them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, I just need a little bit higher than that and I'm good.
Mhm.
Right. But personality, I need off the charts. Okay. Then I have spirituality. You could throw in religiosity, morality, ethics, whatever. But To me, it's more about just being on a similar spiritual plane.
Mhm.
For some people, it might be we need to be the same religion, same denomination. Even I tell people, like, if you're atheist, you probably want to date an atheist,
Sure.
right? Or
Yeah.
there's going to be it's going to be tough, you know?
Right.
Maybe you build a nice little bridge there. I don't know. But, and then fourth, I have intellect.
Mhm.
And this is more, again, that you're on a similar plane. And then fifth is sort of an all-encompassing, like, emotional wellness, emotional intelligence, ability to be vulnerable, ability to share, ability to communicate. And the reason you could argue that should be way higher. The reason I have it as 5 is because it takes a little longer to discover.
Mm.
And so, you know, it's hard to go on a first date and be like, yeah, their emotional score was X, Y, or Z, you know?
Mm.
And then, I also will say that I think women have a 6th pillar, you know, because they're like that.
Okay.
And I already talked about it. It's their
Oh, that
desire to be
security.
protected and provided for,
Mhm.
to feel safety, right? Because guys just don't really have that,
Yeah.
you know? It might be a little cherry on top,
Mhm.
but like, I would happily date a girl that's unemployed and has no ambitions.
Dude.
Like obviously some ambitions, right?
Yeah.
But like, if I meet a girl and I'm like, the personality is so good,
Yeah.
spiritual's there, attraction's there, and I'm like, what do you want to do with life? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay. Like, we'll figure it out later. I don't care. You know, you could work at McDonald's. You could not work at all.
I don't know. That right there is kind of red flaggy to me, though.
Yeah.
Because
Great.
it's like, if a person doesn't know their purpose and doesn't know their blueprint,
Mhm.
and they get with you and it's like, cool, yeah, wonderful. And then they start to discover who they are, and who they are is completely disparate
Yeah.
to who you are.
It depends.
That's-
It depends on a
that's
lot.
scary.
You know, it depends on a lot. They can't be totally rudderless, you know, but I just don't care
As
about their work history.
right.
I don't care about their LinkedIn like
Right.
information.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like, it might be a red flag if they're, you know, 30 and have never had a job and have no interest in having
Yeah.
a job.
Right.
Right. But I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
It's fair, man. That's
Yeah.
great.
Those are great pillars.
Yeah, I like the 5 pillars, bro. Like, and now obviously what's going to happen here is, like, and you know how this process works. We're going to get the long form episode. And so we encourage everybody to watch the entire thing, but we're going to chop this up.
Sure.
And I can tell you that what you just said about the ambition, that little thing, I'm so tempted just to do that, like 7-second clip.
Go
there. Like,
ahead, yeah.
I don't. What did you say about no ambition? No, I'm all about it. Whatever.
But dude, I'm telling you, you talk to most guys, and when they're talking about some girl they're interested in, you never hear about their job.
Yeah.
We don't freaking care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, ambition, yes. Like, I love ambition. I love, more than anything, I love passion, right? I don't necessarily care that this girl's trying to, like, climb a ladder or trying to dominate an industry. I just care that she has passions, and her passions might generate $0 per year. You know, I don't care. I just want somebody that has an amazing personality that I think is super hot and that aligns with God like I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Love it.
Great. I love it, man.
chop that up.
Dude.
Yeah, you might get some shots shot in your DMs because of
sir.
this episode from
Yes,
our
sir.
audience.
Well, we already know if you Google Taylor Church, the number one question is Taylor Church
Taylor
single?
Church, no, is he married?
Is he married? Is Taylor Church married? Yeah. So
Notice the ringless fingers.
yes,
That's
yes,
right.
yes.
I mean, that's not always an indication.
yeah.
I was just looking at someone on the Instagram. No, I think it was Facebook. They just showed up on my feed, and I realized, like, they've been married for a long time and they don't wear any rings.
I mean,
yeah.
And there's no, like, oh, they took their ring off, indentation. You know, you
yeah,
can see, like, they don't wear rings,
Yeah.
and it's so weird.
yeah. I mean, obviously I'm not married, so I try not to have too strong of an opinion on this, but I would hope that my actions show that I'm married way more than a
Mhm.
ring. And I know a ring is a beautiful symbolic
Mhm.
gesture. But I'm like, if my behavior is making people think, is he married, then I got a separate issue,
Yeah.
you know?
That's true.
Like my hands could be in my pockets most of the time, you know? But I just think I play so much sports and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how often I want to be wearing a ring, but
Yeah.
it'll be more like, how important is this to my wife? Because I don't really care.
Yeah.
You
A
know?
couple of my brothers only wear those silicone ones
Yeah.
because they're just like so active and doing so much all the time.
Right,
And
right.
they're just like, yeah, I can't chance. Like they have a ring, but
Yeah.
they wear like the.
And here's the
active
thing,
ones
I
all
got
the
fat
time.
knuckles. So like if a ring goes on and fits well, it's gonna be hard to take off easily if I'm like playing basketball or something.
Mhm.
And so I don't know.
Yeah, these are the
These are
real
the
problems.
These are
I
the
mean,
real
you could
problems.
get.
This is why I'm
your ring
single.
Yeah.
tatted.
These are the things that are really holding you back. These are the bottlenecks.
yeah.
So grateful we
There's
could have
plenty
this.
of people that just get
session.
them tatted, so they don't have to worry
I
about
know.
it.
That's a
Yeah.
fact. That's
Yeah.
great.
Um, so, since you are single, what would you say is your most important relationship in your life right now?
I mean, I always have a premium on my friends, you know. I think as a single person, you have to have good friends or like you'll drown. I really think that.
What constitutes a good friend?
For me, it's somebody that you know you can go to with any piece of personal information without judgment. There's never, you're never walking on eggshells. You're never worried about upsetting them. It doesn't mean you agree on everything. It doesn't mean it's always harmonious, but it's like the real ones in my life, like I can say anything to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like, well, I'm not going to tell this friend this thing.
Mm.
If you're a real one, like
Mm.
I'll tell you anything,
Dang.
you know, and I hope that you feel the same, you know? And so it's, because life can be so lonely if you don't have someone to like tell your most inner thoughts to.
Mm-hmm.
It can become you know, kind of an Irish carnival up there
Mhm.
if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody to, you know, just tell that you're feeling lonely. Like most people don't have that, you know, even if they are lonely, they're like, well, who could I tell that to? And like, who would receive it well, you know? And, you know, and also I think the hallmark of a good friend is somebody that will tell you when you're acting up,
Mm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're not acting right.
Yeah.
Cause they see the God in you, right? They see how beautiful you can be. And so when you're dragging your feet, they'll pick them up for you a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
What
good.
was that?
It's good.
I knew that was a good question.
That's
to
a good
ask you.
question to ask. Taylor Church speaking of real ones, Taylor Church is a real one. And Taylor Church is a life coach. You have a session. We got to get you out of here so you can go to your session. And
I pushed it back a little bit, so we're chilling.
Oh, really?
If you have anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the last thing, it's probably, we've been going for a while and we could go on for days, honestly. I mean, I really think we could, like, cause that's the thing, like, this is new for us. Like, we're asking the questions, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I was like, we look at chopping up even more, you know? And so we might have to do a part 2 sometime. But you know, I mean, just kind of in a wrap up kind of way. Like, is there anything that we haven't asked or that you haven't mentioned that you think that's on your mind and your heart right now? Things you're learning that you feel are like worth sharing and that you're going to share on our podcast and not your own.
Right. If you could gatekeep to your audience, but not to ours. Yeah, that's great. Let's see. I think it's funny. I think most of us probably deep down know this, but as you get older and as you experience life more and as I've done coaching more, I realize like most people have insane stories. Most people have been through hell,
Yeah.
you know, And I would say the majority of people aren't very open about it, and it's not especially obvious. But I think it's good to go into situations assuming, oh, this person has crawled through hell, you know? And so maybe I should give them some grace, you know, because
Wow.
it's so easy we get so established with what we like and what we dislike and what annoys us and what we aren't going to put up with and what we're going to ignore. But to assume that any person that comes into your orbit, to assume they've crawled through hell and have seen things that you can't imagine, like if you could give them that level of grace, I think it's way easier to connect with people and way easier to love people. Because I think sometimes, I even said it before, sometimes it's hard to love certain people, right? Because they rub you the wrong way or they say things in a way that just irks you. But I'm like, as I've coached a lot of people and heard a lot of stories, I'm like, man, dude, people have just, like, life just puts you through the ringer.
Yeah.
And some people have a little bit more of a gilded road and life has been a little bit easier. But we all eventually succumb to incredible pain and loss, you know, like you can't avoid it. Even if, like, you know, at my age, I've been lucky. Like, I've really only lost, you know, I've lost 3 of my 4 grandparents. You know, I've lost some friends that have passed away over the years, but like I haven't lost any siblings, haven't lost any aunts and uncles, you know, haven't lost my parents, nieces and nephews, people, you know, but eventually I will, you know, and everyone in my orbit will too.
Yeah.
And so, I think approaching life from that angle and understanding that everybody you meet is either going through pain, or they have gone through extreme pain, or they will go through extreme pain. And so, you know, tread lightly, you know, everybody has like incredible emotional undulations throughout their life. And so give them some freaking grace, you know? And like I've said, this is probably becoming a bit of a motif, but give that same grace to yourself. You know, it's so hard. It's the hardest thing, but I want to get to the point where, because I feel like I love really hard and I feel like I love really well, but I want to get to the point where I can do that for myself all the time. I want to love myself unconditionally. Mm-hmm. I don't want to love myself just when I'm doing well, or just when I'm feeling lovable, or just when I'm accomplishing things. I want to love myself through all the murky waters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you said, you never know what the algorithm's going to pick up.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to go viral.
Mm-hmm.
You can only offer value. And I can just say what you just said, that is such a core to our message of bridge building. It's so valuable for everyday life. And it might not be the sexiest piece of advice you've ever given. It might not be the soundbite that everybody's looking for. But I just pray and hope that if we clip that up, that goes.
Right.
Because that is what we need. We are so quick to judge everybody and ourselves. And if we can just learn how to operate in our identity and as children of God, knowing who we are in Him, and then loving ourselves, loving God, loving ourselves, knowing how much He loves us, and loving ourselves in a similar way, then everything starts to cascade out of those two relationships. Mm-hmm. This is what you're coaching on. This is what you're saying. You're telling people to love themselves. And if you can do that, then your relationships in every direction, with groups, with individuals, with your potential romantic partner, everything becomes richer and aligned. There is kind of, I think, a way that relationships are designed to go. There's a flow, and it's supposed to flow from the love of God through us to other people. But I love what one of our friends said: if you love God, and you understand His love for you, then you'll follow Him, and he'll take you back into loving yourself
Yeah.
because he loves you.
Oh yeah.
We skip over that idea of loving ourselves as Christians, particularly. We're not comfortable with that because honestly, the way a lot of people do it excludes God. But if you include God in that formula, man,
Yeah.
it's powerful stuff. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Can I eulogize you guys for a second?
Please.
You,
Yeah, let's go ahead, bro. We're gonna be here after this episode, though, just so you know.
No, I mean, it doesn't just apply to funerals, but I just there's honestly, and this is really sad, but there's honestly very few couples in my life that I look up to in any capacity, because I think most people are bad at communicating. Most people are bad at loving unconditionally, and most people take for granted the love that they have. And I see that you guys are the opposite of all of that. And it's very apparent that your love is really full and is really rich and comes from a place of extreme depth. And it really buoys people that are around it, because sometimes that love feels really scarce and really like almost like it's an endangered quality, right? And so when you see it, it's really inspiring, and it makes you feel a lot of hope, because you're like, oh, if those two people can find it, like I can find it, you know? And so to be around it is to feel more elevated. And so I count myself lucky to have met you guys and to have been, able to be friends with you guys and to learn from you guys. And yeah, it's just beautiful, because when I think about the kind of relationships I want to have, the kind of marriage I want to have, like I said, there's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 couples that I'm like, oh, I love what they do here. I love how they talk to each other. I love how they look at each other. That's a big thing with you guys. I always see you guys looking at each other with adoration. You know, it's not just cute little puppy love. It's a little bit of that. There's a little puppy in there, but it's adoration, and it's looking at your partner and seeing the divinity within them. And you guys do that so effortlessly, and it's really powerful. I'll see you guys at a show, and one of you is talking, and the other is just in awe, and the other is just tickled pink to be there, and to realize, like, dang it, dude, that's who I nabbed,
Yeah.
and that's beautiful.
Thank you for saying all of that, man.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and I think the danger that people would have is like, this seems like 1 in a billion, and I just feel like it is more possible than we might believe. Because, and the way I know that is because, yeah, there are some crazy divine things. In the next episode, we'll share one that we just learned this last week. This, like, okay, you don't hear a lot of stories, so it does seem unique, right? Our story and certain parts of it. But you obviously, you said the word effortlessly, and I know that's not what you meant. What you said before all this was most people crawl through hell.
Right.
And
well, it seems effortless.
And
right?
that's
you've gotten to this point where it is now effortless.
Exactly. And I know that's what you meant. And
we've exercised the muscle enough that it's something that we do without having to think about.
But all your 5 pillars are there for us.
Right.
And we've crawled through hell.
Yeah.
To get to and create the heaven that this relationship is. But it's still daily effort, and I'm just really grateful that you see it and other people see it, and it can be inspiring. And I hope people don't look at it and say, oh, that's them.
Right.
Because I think it's possible for everybody.
Well, yeah. And I look at it and I see, like, even though, like you said, your guys is really unique because it feels like super almost predestined in a lot of ways. Yeah. Right. But I look at you individually and I look at you individually, and I'm like, you both would have amazing marriages with anyone else that you married, because those are the kind of people you are. So it's just about finding someone that's also like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Bro.
Do you have anything that you want to ask us?
Yeah. Let's see. What do you guys do to reset as a couple when you feel like things are getting monotonous or robotic, or you're so focused on parenting instead of being a couple, or when you're so just focused on your individual pursuits? How do you guys sort of emotionally reset and say like, hey, let's get back to the magic for a second?
That's a good question. Good question. Okay. All right, Taylor. All right, church. You're gonna go first, like, because I know you got stuff.
No, I thought you were gonna go first. What do? We do a lot of things. It just depends on the situation, but connection is big for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's big. Sometimes it's like finding somebody to keep David and going off and, having a date that's just us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is us just sitting down and having a very honest conversation about where we are. And Bryden does this thing that we learned from relationship coaches that when we first got married, we realized that we didn't know how to be married.
Yeah.
We were like, well, we know how to be dating.
Yeah.
We did that for so long. We know how to be long distance.
Mhm.
We know how to do that. We know how to stay connected over a great distance. The first bridges that we built were between each other,
Mhm.
So we know how to do that. We know how to be engaged, not very well because we didn't live that season for a long time, but we had, boundaries. We had, specific things that we did while we were engaged. And then we just, maybe 6 months in, we were like, we don't know how to be married.
Yeah.
It just feels like an extension of our dating relationship, which in some ways it is. But we just thought, we should probably learn some tools for how to be married effectively. And so we went through this program, the Gottman program for married people. And we learned a lot of really great tools. And one of the things that they teach you how to do is you have a State of the Union conversation.
Yeah.
And Bryden will always bring up the State of the Union. Like, so what's the state of our union? And we'll sit down and we'll talk about the ways that we can improve our connection and improve our relationship. And
how often do you guys do that?
Probably monthly we do it. Maybe, we're supposed to do it weekly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do it and we're consistent, but we always end up coming back to that, especially if we feel like things have gotten out of hand and it's just like, okay, we need to zero back in on us.
Yeah.
We do a State of the Union and we just talk about honestly what each one of us needs more of, or, and it's very helpful because after we have that conversation, we can immediately see each other begin to adjust in the area that needs more of whatever it was that we were lacking. And that's really helpful. But for us, it's always been contact and flow. We need contact. We need to actually have skin to skin contact, holding hands or being in each other's orbit. Like sometimes he'll be working and I'll just come sit near him because we just need to be in each other's presence.
Yeah.
And we charge around each other. That's another thing that we realize is that both of us, even though we seem like we're extroverts, we're really ambiverts, and we're introverted when we need to charge.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've discovered about each other is that we don't need to be away from each other to charge, that we actually charge each other.
Yeah.
So we need to be away from crowds and other people.
Right.
But
you just have
we
a
need to
little
be together to
USB port
charge.
that goes between you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A nice little little dongle or
A little
what do they call those things? So an adapter, those
Adapter, yeah,
adapters.
Certainly not a
Dongle is
dongle.
hilarious.
Not a dongle.
Not a dongle.
That's such a cringy word.
I know. He every time someone says dongle, he cringes.
Oh,
every
right.
single time.
5 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's you got to think that's the name of this episode.
Yeah, yeah. Of dongles. Of dongles.
Yeah. What about you? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty pragmatic about a few things. So like, I mean, if you like have it like a Tony Stark like dashboard about the marriage, right? And you can start to see, oh, the love tanks, the relationship tank for our marriage tank is like over here, and this one's full. You have to make some adjustments, and that does happen for us, especially since having a kid, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also, we're just around people all the time,
Yeah.
So, we have certain rhythms that we've always kept. Contact and flow is one of them. So we always we're texting each other multiple times for the day.
Mm-hmm.
we use emojis.
And we use emojis.
And we use emojis. We do not use emojis. Even
Yeah.
if it's just like asking each other a question, there's always a heart or a kissy face or something. Because I read somewhere that like using emojis in text conversation with a couple, it like strengthens the couple.
Yeah.
And so I think
It
we
kinda-
read that
it
when
kind
we
of
were
shows
dating.
playfulness.
Yeah.
It kind of shows. I feel like you can, because sometimes it's hard to read tonality in text.
Yes.
But if you're always liking or hearting a text, you can tell like, okay, they actually liked that. They actually resonated with that.
Mhm. Yeah, it keeps us connected in
And
a
you start
weird way.
you start to read each other's like, oh, I know when he uses this emoji, I know what he means.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I
100%.
don't use an emoji, he'll
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
look at
things
me
are
like, "Are you okay?"
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
When you give a cold,
Yeah. yeah.
I never
Yeah.
use that emoji. That's so funny.
Yeah, no. So it seems really simple, but that's one of the little tweaks that we do. So contact and flow is a fundamental rhythm. Another fundamental rhythm for us is it's called the nightly stress reducing conversation. So
Mhm.
15 to 20 minutes. We just talk. We talk about what were our 3 wins from the day, what are 3 wins we're looking forward to tomorrow. Let's look ahead at tomorrow. Just gives us a chance to decompress on the day and put this day behind us and look forward to the next.
Yeah.
And then so that's routine. So we kind of have a daily planning ritual. Our weekly planning ritual is also, it sounds crazy, but that's a really important one.
Yeah.
If we drift on the weekly planning, and it's not anything extensive, it's about a 10, 15 minute thing. But if we don't sync up on what the week's looking like, we always get out of step.
right?
So that's a really important rhythm. And that State of the Union is kind of like a weekly planning session elongated.
Yeah.
So these are like some really simple like
And
rhythms.
date night.
And
Yeah.
date night is fundamental. And then we
Date
have our
night is
family night,
non-negotiable.
family home evening that we do. That's with our family, but the entire family. But as far as we're concerned, we've always recalibrated through physical touch.
Yeah.
And so just touching each other, cuddling, that's super helpful. And sometimes, because we're married folk, we do what married folk do.
Sure, you have
and
adult
that's-
time.
That's important to do.
Yeah, important.
It's important to do. So
We might have to bleep that out.
just kidding.
We do what married
bro,
folk
like,
do is
literally censor my
hilarious.
face, my mouth.
It's just like
when because we're married folk, we do it. So that's all the really nuts and bolts stuff about it. But I think you really just have to be aware when there's attrition and not let it get into repair mode, but just okay, we're dipping a little bit, let's get it back up. And I think we've done really good at maintaining all the time. We've never let it dip so far to where it's like, oh, now we have to repair stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keeping it fresh has always been a high priority. So those are some things for us.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I have one last question. We can be quick with it.
Okay.
What is something that maybe when you guys first started dating or were initially married that felt a little annoying from the other partner, but became endearing? Because they say, I can't remember who said this, but he said, when you're in love, you'll easily confuse a pimple for a dimple. And I think sometimes when you really start to love someone and see them really deeply, the quirks that maybe bugged you before, you're like, oh, that's my person doing what they do.
Yeah, that's fun. All right, that's a good question. I have no answer. What do you have? Nate?
I don't either.
What do
That's
you, I
something that was annoying that is now endearing.
yeah, I think that's so interesting. Here's my honest take on it. She says she loves everything I do.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true.
That's not true.
No. She said I love you. I don't love everything you do.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's got to be one.
What?
Like when I'm like annoying to other people on purpose.
Yeah, that's literally what I was just thinking about.
And is that endearing to you now, or is it still annoying?
Yeah, maybe there's just all still annoying.
You know what? I've come to look at it as like you showing love to that person, and I noticed that like when you actually really like someone, you will annoy the crap out of them.
Yeah.
On purpose. Like that's a thing.
It's what Jesus would do.
That's not what Jesus would do. There's okay.
It's complicated.
There's a whole lot that we don't know that he did.
That's true. He
John talked about that.
he probably had fun with his cousins or something. And it's like I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I have come to actually like process that as you just showing love to someone, specifically people of the opposite sex, but really just everybody. Like you will, if you love a person and you actually like really like them, you will annoy the crap out of them
Yeah.
because you do it to Karen. Like you do it to your brother all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like if you view them as like, that's one of the ways that I knew that you felt accepted and loved and actually like part of my family. This is the way you started treating my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Just annoying the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Especially my little sister.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I realized that, oh, she's your little sister. It's because you started annoying her.
Yeah.
And she takes it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess, yeah, sometimes maybe it doesn't even necessarily become endearing, but you just get more context,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, well, it doesn't really bug me anymore because I know why they do it. I know
Yeah.
where this comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's endearing.
Yeah.
yeah, I try not to make mountains out of molehills. And there's a whole book series, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, you know? And so my honest take on it is I do quick reframes mentally.
Mhm.
My identity as her husband is one of my top 3. It goes like this: I'm a son of God, I'm a follower of Jesus, and I'm a husband to Mina.
Mhm.
That's the order of priority.
Yeah.
Because of that, my time, my attention, how I use both of those must reflect that
Mhm.
those identities. What do I need to do in my life to embody those identities and become the kind of person who can really be what's necessary in those identities? And so as a husband, so that's why she brought that up. Like we did the Gottman thing. We spent money, you know, we spend money, we spend time on becoming better at that role, at that identity. So because of that, I've always taken this role as a husbandman really seriously.
Mhm.
And so I haven't let anything, even if it registered as annoying,
Yeah.
I did a quick reframe and flipped it. And honestly, there haven't been a lot of those things anyway. I mean, we have weaknesses,
Right.
but I can tell you that natural man in me, there's sometimes, and I think probably for you too, if we let it, we could easily get into the cycles of criticism and bitterness and contempt and
Mhm.
stonewalling that
Yeah.
lead into the separation and becoming a disaster couple versus what
A
Gottman
master
calls a
couple.
master couple.
Mhm.
And so I say all that to say, like, I'm pretty vigilant about how I view the things that she does, and
Yeah.
making sure that if it feels annoying,
Mhm.
that I do a quick mental reframe on that, so it doesn't.
and that it's probably a you issue.
It's a me issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't let that spiral.
Right. I like that. That's beautiful.
I do
Yeah.
the same thing. And I don't do it consciously. I do it because the Holy Spirit does it
Bingo.
for me.
Bingo.
Like I'll
More
be
elevated.
in the thought process of
That's
being
annoying.
like, that's annoying. I'll be in the thought process
Yeah.
of like, oh, and the Lord's like, and it's like, you're right. And then, you fix up.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
Fix up.
That's great.
It's good. Good questions, bro. It's like your podcast,
It is.
It's
It's like
like you have your own podcast or something.
yeah.
which
All
he
right.
does. Which
He does. You really got. You guys should watch it. It's great, especially if you're single and you're like, in your feels, and you want somebody who's gonna speak the truth about what it feels like to be in that space. Taylor is the one to watch, and he's so honest and so articulate about the way he expresses those feelings that it's just like it's watching art. It's not just like
Mhm.
somebody talking. And he's quotable, and I don't know, he's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're honestly a gift, bro.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
You're resonating with so many people, and God working through you is resonating through so many people because you are blessed to see and then to express
Yeah.
things differently and in ways that maybe weren't ever put together in that way before.
Yeah.
You are able to innovate even the English language into saying things where it hits just different enough that it creates that degree shift that ultimately can create a massive shift in someone's life.
Yeah.
And you just have a gift. And I just want to let you know that you're a blessing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
And your vocabulary is top.
yes. and we're grateful for your friendship. And
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say like we're all like we're the best of homies because we spend time in circles together, right? It's like so I would love if we were that, but I don't know if that's our calling to be like inner circle people to each
Sure,
other,
sure.
But I think you just need to know like there's probably a lot of people like us who you make feel safe enough. And you're just so cool enough that they just would love to be in your inner circle. And I think there's probably millions of people, and that's it. Those are the people who you're gonna reach,
Yeah.
who feel like, hey, he sees me, he gets me, and even though they can't possibly be in your inner circle, they're going to feel seen and heard in that way. And I think God's gonna work really miraculously through you as you keep on going, man. So we're just grateful to have been
Thanks, man.
just part of your journey, no matter what that looks like from here on out. It's been really beautiful so far.
Thanks,
So,
man. Yeah, I was really like when you guys asked me to be on the show, I was really excited. So I'm glad we did this. It was it went better than I could have even imagined.
Yeah,
Like
good.
I wasn't nervous, but I was just thinking about this episode a lot, just because I wanted it to be special, and I wanted it to be really, full of truth, and I feel like it was consecrated.
Yeah. I agree, man.
I agree.
I totally agree. Well, there's still time to screw all that up. We have the ending here.
Okay. Good.
Oh yeah. If you guys made it to the end of this, kudos to you, because I don't even know how long we've been doing this.
Yeah.
If you are still here, thank you.
They're still here.
You're still he says they're still, you guys are still here. Thank you. We thank you for sticking with us and hanging out and listening to this conversation. It's been one of our favorites. And we encourage you, like, comment, subscribe, get on the website, tell us what you want us to talk about, give us suggestions for who else you want to see on the pod. Also, sign up for that cruise because it's gonna be fun. Come hang out with us.
Yeah, church is coming with us. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is there a discount code?
Church is
Discount code.
If there's a discount code, you can count on your boy. Yeah.
Well, if there is one, we'll let you know.
Okay.
I'm sure you're gonna do this, but make sure that you go follow all the Of Stone and
Yes.
Play podcasts platform, wherever you can follow what Taylor's doing. Can't wait for the new book.
Yeah.
It's gonna
It'll
cool.
be a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
but I'm
Yeah.
still looking forward to it. I'm gonna go read your other ones.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I don't know. I'm-
Go look
Yes.
up all the different bio iterations on the internet.
Yes, because just Google
Just
Taylor
load it up.
Church.
Just don't go to Goodreads. You already got that one.
Right.
Yep, you got that one already. But we know that there is a nice group of you who are just waiting for the part where we leave you with a smile on your face. So, babe, what you got?
Well, I don't have a lot, but we did go see a movie
Yes.
we saw Mission Impossible. We talked about this
Mhm.
before pre-pod.
Yeah.
He's not a big Mission Impossible fan. Yeah, there are only so many missions that are impossible that he can take. So that's fine.
I'm just overwhelmed.
But yeah, but have you heard about the new movie about constipation?
No, but I've experienced that very feeling.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Well,
Yeah.
that's okay because
Yeah.
it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
All right, we love y'all. Thank you so much for this.
Okay, love you guys.
That I
Go
would
build the bridge.
I would classify as good, not great.
Go build the bridge. Thank you, Taylor.
My
Thank you so
feelings, my
much for coming.
feelings.
Oh, do you have a redeeming
just
one
kidding.
that you want to do?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
No,
Go build the bridge, guys. Thanks, church. We love you.
Of course, love you too.
Bye.
Peace.